I paid for my sister's wedding, and then, without warning, she uninvited me. My parents scoffed. It's family only. My sister snapped. Know your place. I said nothing, but when they raised their glasses for a toast, the doors suddenly flew open, and in walked the gift I had sent in my stead. My name's Ben. I'm 32, and I just did something so petty, so ridiculously over the top, that even I can't believe it, but honestly, I regret nothing, because for the first time in my life, I finally made my family feel the humiliation they've put me through for years. See, I run a horse ranch. It's my passion. I train competition horses, breed thoroughbreds, and teach kids from wealthy families how to ride. It pays well, more than people give it credit for, but to my family, I might as well be a laborer wallowing in mud. They've always been ashamed of me. Last Christmas was a turning point. I had just finished working, still in my jeans and boots, smelling like hay and leather. I walked into my parents' house with a bottle of whiskey for Dad and a wrapped gift for my sister, Claire. The second I stepped inside, Claire wrinkled her nose. "Oh my God, Ben," she groaned, taking a step back. "Did you seriously come here smelling like that?" I frowned. "Like what?" "Like a barn," she said, waving her hand in front of her face. "You couldn't have at least showered?" Mom chuckled nervously and eyed me up and down. "Sweetheart, we have guests. Maybe next time, you can dress a little cleaner?" I looked down at myself. My clothes were worn, sure, but clean. My boots had a little dust, so what? But to them, I wasn't presentable. I was an embarrassment. They whispered about me at family events. Why can't he get a real job? Why does he always look like he wrestled a cow? But when Claire needed money for her wedding, suddenly, I was useful. It all started with a simple request. "Ben," Claire said sweetly, linking her arm through mine at a rare family dinner. "You know I love you, right?" I stiffened. Whenever she said that, I knew what was coming. She continued, "So, we're a bit over budget for the wedding, and I was thinking." "No," I interrupted, already knowing where this was going. She gasped. "I didn't even ask yet." I crossed my arms. "You want me to pay for something, don't you?" Claire pouted. "Come on, Benny. You're doing so well with that little horse thing of yours." "Little horse thing?" Mom sighed. "Ben, don't be difficult. You know how important this day is for Claire." Dad cleared his throat. "It's family, son. We all chip in when needed."
Yeah,
"Ben," Claire chirped. "And since you don't have a real family of your own, you don't have expenses, right?" That one hit deep. I clenched my jaw, ready to lash out, but I didn't. Some stupid part of me still longed for their approval. So, like an idiot, I paid for it all. The venue, the catering, the designer dress Claire insisted on, even their honeymoon suite. Then the invitations went out, and mine never arrived. When I asked Claire about it, she just laughed. "Oh, Benny," she said, barely glancing up from her phone, "don't take it personally. It's just a black tie event, super elegant. We didn't want anything out of place." I stared at her. "I paid for it. And I love you for that," she sang. "But honestly, you'd probably hate it. All those fancy people in tuxedos? It's just not really your scene, you know?" Mom smirked. "It's family only, sweetie. You get it, right?" I understood perfectly. They wanted my money, not me. So I did nothing. I didn't argue, didn't fight back. I just sent them a little gift. And when they raised their glasses for the toast, the doors slammed open, and a loud honk echoed through the venue. Then someone gasped, "What's that smell?" The doors swung wide, and in walked my gift. I sat in my truck outside the venue, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Through the massive windows, I could see them, my family, dressed to perfection, laughing, drinking, celebrating. A celebration I paid for. And yet, I wasn't even worthy of an invitation. I should have seen it coming. I had seen it coming, but, like a fool, I thought maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. It wasn't. Claire got everything she ever dreamed of, a perfect, elegant wedding with all the right people, the right decorations, the right appearances. And me? I was just the wallet behind it all. I exhaled, hard. No, Not this time. I wasn't going to swallow my pride and let them humiliate me again. If they thought I was too dirty, too embarrassing to be at their fancy wedding, then I'd make sure they'd never forget me. I pulled out my phone and made the call. 15 minutes later, the side doors of the venue creaked open. At first, no one noticed. The music blared, conversation filled the air. Then came the sound. Hooves. Clop, clop, clop. Heads turned, conversations died. Someone near the entrance gasped, "What the?" And then the smell hit. It didn't hit all at once, but crept in, earthy, strong, unmistakable barn, the kind of scent that clung to leather saddles and hay bales, something most of these people only encountered in petting zoos. A murmur rippled through the crowd as the first horse stepped into the venue. Daisy, my youngest mare, calm and well-trained, stepped in first, her ears flicking forward, nostrils flaring as she took in the new, expensive surroundings. Behind her, the others followed, hooves clicking against the polished marble floor. Claire's perfect wedding came to a screeching halt. A waiter, holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, froze. Guests in tuxedos and delicate silk gowns scrambled backward, torn between shock and disbelief. Are those horses?" someone stammered. Claire's voice cut through the chaos, shrill and sharp. "Ben." I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. "Well," I said, smirking, "you did say it was a family event." Claire's eyes flicked from the horses to me. "Get them out of here." Before I could respond, Daisy shifted her weight. And that's when it happened. A wet, heavy plop landed smack in the middle of the dance floor. Dead silence. A second later, someone gagged. That's when all hell broke loose. People tripped over themselves trying to get away. A woman in a sequin dress shrieked as one of the horses shook itself, flinging bits of dried mud. The DJ, mid-song, stopped cold, mouth agape. Some guests bolted for the exits. Claire froze, her wedding gown pristine, until Daisy took another step forward. A smear of dirt, and something far worse, streaked across the bottom of her dress. She gasped, half sobbing, "Oh, my God." Mom clutched a napkin to her nose, Dad's face turning crimson with rage. And Claire looked ready to explode. She shrieked, "What did you do?" I shrugged. "Just bringing a little personal touch to the wedding I paid for." Claire's face twisted with fury. "You're disgusting." I tilted my head. "Well, I could say the same about your dress." Her scream was pure rage. "You think this is funny?" "Oh, hilarious," I said, pulling out my phone. "And so do the thousands of people watching this right now." I turned the screen to her, showing the live stream I'd started minutes ago. Her face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "Oh, yes." Hundreds of comments flooded in. "Is this real? Did that horse just do that on her dress? Ben is a legend." She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. You wanted a high-class event, Claire," I said, grinning. "Guess what? You just went viral." Mom gasped, "Ben, turn it off." I didn't. Instead, I lifted my fingers to my lips and gave a sharp whistle. My horses turned, and like well-trained performers, they trotted out the doors, leaving chaos in their wake. Ruined gowns, shattered glasses. A bride standing amidst the wreckage, her perfect, elegant night shattered. I turned back to Claire, flashing my biggest, most satisfied grin. "Congrats on your wedding, sis," I said. "Hope it was everything you dreamed of." And with that, I walked out. I drove away from the venue, the scent of hay and leather still clinging to my clothes. Even through the rolled-up windows, I could hear the chaos I'd left behind. Claire screaming. Mom on the verge of fainting. Dad fuming. Guests scrambling to escape without ruining their designer shoes. I should have felt guilty. But I didn't. I parked my truck outside my ranch, stepped out, and inhaled the crisp night air. My horses were already back in their stalls, munching hay, unaware of the unforgettable wedding disaster they had just caused. I was still chuckling when my phone started blowing up. I ignored the first few calls. Then came the texts. "Mom, Ben, pick up the phone, now. Dad, you've humiliated this family. Unbelievable." Claire, you're dead to me. Absolutely dead. Unknown number, dude. This is going viral. Are you seeing this? That last one made me stop. I opened the link. And there it was, Claire's wedding was trending. A TikTok video titled "The Most Insane Wedding Disaster You'll Ever See" was already at 200,000 views. I pressed play. The clip started right when Daisy made her grand contribution to the dance floor. The camera panned to the guests recoiling in horror, then zoomed in on Claire, her face twisted in fury. The bottom of her gown streaked in filth. The comment section was merciless. Best wedding entrance of all time. 10 out of 10. Imagine being so awful that your own brother sends horses to your wedding instead of attending. She deserved it. I don't even know the full story, but the way he just casually walked away at the end? Iconic. I leaned back against my truck, watching the views climb higher and higher. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the family embarrassment. I was a legend. I barely had time to enjoy the satisfaction of my prank before my phone rang again. I glanced at the screen, sighed, and answered. What the hell is wrong with you? Claire's voice exploded through the speaker. Nice wedding, I said, smirking. Very elegant. You ruined everything. She shrieked. Do you have any idea what you just did? People were filming. Oh, I know, I said smoothly. You're trending now. Congratulations. Her breath hitched. You humiliated me in front of everyone, my guests, my in-laws, Dan's family. They think I'm a joke. I scoffed. Claire, let's be honest. They probably thought that long before today. There was a beat of silence. Then she let out a noise somewhere between a growl and a sob. Mom and Dad are furious. They want you to apologize. They want you to fix this. I laughed. Fix what? The part where I wasn't good enough to be invited but was good enough to bankroll everything? Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. You are so selfish. She spat. You think this is about money? It's about family. But you wouldn't understand, because you only care about yourself. That made me pause. My grip tightened on the phone. You really want to talk about selfishness, Claire? My voice was steady, but the anger was there, because last I checked, I was the one handing over thousands of dollars for your dream wedding. I was the one being used. You don't get to play the family card now, not after treating me like dirt. You're unbelievable, she hissed. And you're entitled, I shot back. You, Mom, and Dad, all of you. You think I owe you something just because we share DNA? Newsflash, family doesn't mean treating someone like garbage and expecting them to take it with a smile. For once, Claire had nothing to say. Then a new voice entered the call. Ben. It was Dan, her new husband. I don't know what's going on between you and your family, he said, voice low, but that stunt you pulled? It didn't just embarrass Claire, it embarrassed me. It embarrassed my family. I deadpanned. Oh no. Not your family. He exhaled sharply, clearly trying to keep his temper in check. This isn't funny. My parents are furious. They think Claire's family is completely unstable. My mother, she's already saying maybe this marriage was a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Well, that's awkward. Dan's voice was tight. If you have any decency, you'll fix this. I leaned against my truck. And what exactly does fixing it look like? A public apology, he said. Claire's reputation is wrecked. Sponsors are pulling out. This is serious. I let out an actual laugh. You think I'm going to apologize? After the way she treated me? After the way all of them treated me? Dan's voice dropped, cold as ice. You'll regret this, Ben. I smirked. I already regret paying for that wedding. But the horse stunt? That was worth every penny. And then I hung up. For 2 days, my phone was a war zone. My parents called nonstop. I ignored them. Claire sent texts that ranged from rage to desperation. I can't believe you did this to me. You ruined my reputation. Mom and Dad are devastated. Fix this. Fine. You win. I hope you're happy being alone. That last one almost got to me. Almost. But then, on the 3rd day, a text came in from an unexpected number. Dan, we need to talk. I think I made a mistake. I stared at it for a long moment before grinning. Me, trouble in paradise already? For a guy who had just married Claire, he sure sounded like someone with regrets. I sat on my porch, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, debating if I should ignore him, let him stew in whatever mess he'd willingly signed up for. But curiosity won. Me, didn't take long for you to regret it, huh? Dan, just meet me. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from him in a rundown diner on the edge of town. He looked rough, dark circles under his eyes, fingers drumming anxiously against the table. I sipped my coffee. So, what's on your mind, brother-in-law? Dan exhaled sharply. This isn't funny, Ben. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, I think it is. He rubbed his temples. Look, I don't like you. You don't like me. Fine. But I need to know, why did you do it? I set my cup down. You mean, why did I send a few perfectly well-behaved horses to a wedding I paid for but wasn't invited to? His eye twitched. You humiliated Claire. I tilted my head. And she didn't humiliate me? You do realize she and my parents cut me out, right? Took my money, then laughed in my face about it? He didn't respond. I leaned forward. Tell me, Dan, when Claire told you about what happened, did she ever mention that I was the one who paid for everything? Silence. I smirked. Didn't think so. Dan let out a slow breath. Look, I get that Claire can be difficult. I barked a laugh. Oh, you think? But you've put us in an impossible position, he continued, ignoring me. My parents are furious. My father thinks I married into a family of lunatics. Claire's been crying non-stop. Now her brand deals are gone. Sponsors don't want to work with her because of how she looked in those videos. I shrugged. Not my problem. Dan's fingers tightened around his coffee cup. Ben, I need you to fix this. I stared at him. Then, slowly, I leaned back. Let me get this straight, I said. You married Claire, the woman who treated me like dirt, cut me out of my own family, and used me as an ATM, and now you, a guy I barely know, are asking me to clean up her mess? Dan clenched his jaw. Yes. I laughed. That's adorable. His face darkened. You don't understand, if this doesn't get fixed, my marriage might not survive. I took a slow sip of my coffee, then met his gaze. Sounds like a you problem, buddy. Dan swore under his breath. Ben, please. I shook my head, smirking. I think I'll just sit back and watch it all crash and burn. I stood up, tossed a few bills on the table, and patted his shoulder as I walked past. Good luck with Claire, you're gonna need it. And then I left. Over the next week, things only got worse for them. Claire's desperate attempts to play the victim online backfired spectacularly. She posted rant after rant about how she'd been betrayed by her own family. The internet didn't buy it. The top comment? Girl, you used your own brother for money and then uninvited him. You got exactly what you deserved. Her brand deals, gone. Her influencer status, crumbling. And the best part, Dan started liking comments that criticized her. Now that was funny. I nearly choked on my drink when I saw it. Claire must have seen it too, because 2 days later, I got a text from Mom. Mom, Ben, your sister is devastated. You need to come over and talk. I actually laughed out loud. No way was I walking into that trap, but curiosity got the best of me. So just for fun, I responded. Me, oh, suddenly I'm family again? Mom, stop being childish. We need to resolve this. Yeah, that wasn't happening. But then, another text popped up, this time from Dan. Dan, Ben, I moved out. I blinked at my screen. Oh, this just got interesting. Dan moved out. My mind raced through every possibility. Did Claire finally push him over the edge? Was it the internet backlash? Or maybe, just maybe, he finally realized what kind of person he had married? I took a deep breath, then typed back. Me, that was fast. What happened? Dan didn't reply right away. Instead, 20 minutes later, my phone rang. I let it ring a few times before answering. If you're calling to tell me you need a place to crash, the answer is no. Dan let out a bitter laugh. I wouldn't blame you if you said that, but no, I got a hotel. I leaned back in my chair, boots propped up on the porch railing. So, what's the story? He sighed. It wasn't just the wedding. I mean, that was the first big slap in the face, seeing how she treated you, but after that, it was like I started seeing her clearly for the first time. I waited. She refused to take responsibility for anything. He continued. First, it was your fault for ruining the wedding. Then it was my fault for not defending her enough. Then it was her friend's fault for not protecting her image online. Then it was the brand's fault for dropping her. I smirked. So basically, it was never Claire's fault. Exactly, Dan muttered. Then, last night, we had this massive fight. I told her she needed to own up to what she did to you. That maybe if she actually apologized, she could start fixing things. I blinked. You told her to apologize? He let out a humorless chuckle. Yeah. Stupid, right? What did she say? She called me a traitor, Dan said, his voice thick with disbelief, like I was supposed to blindly back her, no matter how awful she acted. I snorted. Welcome to the family, man. Well, not anymore, he said, because when I told her I was done, you know what she said. I raised an eyebrow. Hit me. She said, and I quote, "You'll regret this. I'm the best thing that's ever happened to you." I nearly choked on my coffee. She actually said that? Oh. Yeah. Dan sighed. That was the moment I knew. I packed a bag and walked out. There was a pause. Then I asked, Dan, I've got to ask, why are you telling me all this? Dan exhaled slowly. Because I owe you an apology, Ben. That made me sit up a little. I treated you like the bad guy, he admitted. I bought into all the stuff Claire and your parents said about you, that you were bitter, selfish, just trying to ruin things out of spite. But after seeing how she treated me the second I stopped worshipping the ground she walked on, I heard him shake his head. She's toxic. Man, your whole family is. I let his words settle between us. Then I said, yeah, I know. 3 days later, Claire called me. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mom texted. Mom, Benjamin. Answer your sister. She's heartbroken. I stared at the message for a long time, then finally replied. Me, she made her bed. Let her lie in it. I didn't hear from them after that. No more texts, no more calls. And for the first time in years, I felt free. No more guilt, no more expectations, no more being treated like an ATM instead of a person. I went back to my life, my horses, my business, and it was good. Then, a month later, I got a letter in the mail from Dan. Inside was a short note. Ben, thanks for knocking some sense into me. Drinks on me next time you're in town, Dan. And taped to the bottom of the letter? A copy of Claire's divorce papers. I laughed so hard, I nearly scared the horses.